Hello, we will discuss the characteristic curves of three-phase induction motors in today's talk. First curve is the torque slip curve. That is how the torque changes with the change in slip. This curve will explain to us, and various aspects of the motor torque we will see in this curve. So how to draw this curve? First we should write the full load torque equation. T is equal to 3 over omega s SC2s square R2 over R2 square plus SX2s whole square. All these have the usual names. Omega s is angular speed in radian per second, S slip, E2s rotor reactance at standstill per phase, R2 is the rotor resistance per phase, and X2s is the rotor reactance per phase. Following points should be taken while drawing this curve. First, let us take the value of slip as 0. If we put the value of slip here 0, the torque will become 0. So when slip is 0, torque is equal to 0. This point shows the first case. Then when S is 0, and this side we are taking L slip, on y axis we are taking torque. When slip is 0, torque is also 0. So this is the point. Next is when the value of slip S is very small. If the value of S is very small, square of slip will be more small. Therefore S square X2S square is very small, negligibly small with respect to R2 square, and hence it is neglected. R2 squares. S square X2S square is neglected. If we neglect it in this equation, what we will remain with? T is equal to 3s E2s square R2 divided by omega s R2 square. This term is neglected. Sx2s square. Now R2 cancels out with square. 3 omega s R2 E2s all are constant terms. Therefore T is directly proportional to S. So conclusion is then value of S is very small, torque is directly proportional to slip. Therefore torque slip curve is a straight line. Under these conditions, torque slip curve is a straight line. This portion, very small values of slip here. The torque varies directly as slip varies. This line shows T is proportional to S. Second point. Third point is when slip is equal to R2 over X2S. As the slip attains the value of R2 over X2S. Suppose R2 is 0.1 ohm and X2S is 1 ohm. It is 0.1. Ratio is 0.1. So slip is 0.1. Say here, the torque will be maximum, because this is the condition for maximum torque, that slip is equal to R2 over X2S. So T is equal to T maximum. This torque is maximum torque. So this straight line curve will terminate here and deviate to downward, because this is the maximum value point. Torque is maximum at this point when slip is equal to R2 over X2S. This is also known as breakdown or pull out torque. If we put load more than this torque on the motor, motor will not work. Number 4, when slip is more than R2 over X2S, means slip has larger value. In that case, R2 square is negligibly small as compared to S square X2S square. Therefore R2 square is neglected. So what is remaining equation? T is equal to 3 over omega s SE2S square R2 over S X2S. So this s, when we open the square, this is s square in the denominator. E2s square, R2, X2s, omega s3, they are all constant. So s over s square, it becomes 1 over s. T is inversely proportional to slip. For large values of slip which are more than R2 over X2s, that is the maximum torque point, the torque becomes inversely proportional to slip. All these curves, all these values which are more than the R2 over X2s value, torque is inversely proportional to slip, and that curve is a rectangular hyperbola as seen in the wave. Now, when torque slip is equal to 1, if the value of slip is 1, slip is 1 at the time of starting, therefore torque is equal to starting torque. Here the value of slip is 1, so torque corresponding to this point, it is Ts, starting torque. From this curve we see that at the time of starting, the torque is very poor as compared to maximum torque. This motor cannot be started at full load. Suppose full load is this much, 70% or this much. Then if we have this much load on the motor, then at the time of starting the torque is low, so motor will refuse to start. Therefore, three-phase induction motors are started without load or very low load, and then load is engaged by some means. Once again we can see that torque corresponding to slip, when torque is 0, slip is 0, torque is also 0. When slip have small values, torque is directly proportional to slip, and the curve is almost straight line, and it achieves the maximum point when slip is equal to R2 over X2s. This slip value, torque becomes maximum, and beyond this value, when torque is more than, slip is more than R2 over X2s, this value more than this value, then the torque is inversely proportional to slip, and the curve is a rectangular hyperbola. Finally, when slip is 1, the torque is equal to starting torque. Now, next curve is the speed, torque speed curve and operating region. Here in place of slip we are taking speed. The formula for speed is N is equal to Ns into 1 minus S. Means when the slip increases, the speed decreases. In previous case, we were going from here to here, that slip was increasing from 0 to 1, but here we are taking speed on this line, so speed is 0 here and ns here. It means speed is increasing. If speed is increasing, slip will be decreasing. Slip will be decreasing. It means when n is equal to ns, n is equal to ns, that point will be corresponding to slip is equal to 0, this point. And when n is 0, slip will be equal to 1. When slip is 0, when speed is 0, slip is equal to 1, because 1 minus 1 into ns will result in 0. So this curve is the mirror image of the already curve. We can start from here. Here slip is 0, here slip is 1. At 0, torque is 0. When slip is having small value, it varies like this. Attains maximum value when slip is R2 over X2s, and then falls like this, inversely proportion, and up to here it is having starting torque. So this becomes our torque speed curve. Now if we watch this curve, suppose let us take this much torque we require for some load. This is the maximum torque, no doubt. This is our starting torque and this is running torque. Suppose we have this much torque required for our load, to drive our load. Then this torque have 2 points on the same curve, x and y. The torque developed at x as well as the torque developed as y point are same. Both the points have same torque, but at x the motor is unstable. Why? Let us check. If the motor is running at this load and this much slip at this speed, suppose load increases, what will happen? Increase in load means increase in slip. If slip increases, speed further decreases. Speed decreases. With the increase in load, the speed decreases. But with the increase in load, if we decrease, the speed of the motor is decreased, then torque is also decreased. But with the increase in load, we require more torque, but torque is decreasing because it is having inversely proportional characteristics. So the motor will not be stable, it will eventually stop. So this region B to C, BC region, this is called unstable region of torque slip curve. We cannot have the running slip of the motor in this range up from B to C. Now let us examine the section AB. At point Y, this is the corresponding speed for same torque as on X. Now if the load on the motor increases, speed will decrease, let us say this much. With the decreased speed, the torque is this much. Torque increases from here to here with the small decrease in speed. So what we are doing, we are increasing the load. As a result, the speed decreases but torque increases, which meets with the load requirements, and we can say that this is a stable region. The motor is stable at this point. So AB, this part of the curve is called stable region or operating region of the motor. Under running conditions, once the motor starts at this slip 1, it takes up, its speed increases, and then it works on this curve. Induction motor is operated in this region of the power factor. In this region of the power factor, the induction motor works and is called operating region. In this region, the motor is unstable. Once the load slightly changes, the motor will stop. Next is the effect of rotor resistance on torque slip curve. Means we are having the torque slip curve as already discussed. This simple, that first it is 0 at 0 slip, then increases directly proportional to slip, attains maximum value, then it is inversely proportional to slip. At starting it is this much. Starting torque we have already discussed is low. If we increase the resistance of rotor, what will happen? The maximum, in the previous case we have assumed that resistance of rotor is 0.1 ohm and the reactance is 1 ohm. The ratio is 0.1 over 1.1. if say resistance is doubled, the ratio will become 0.2. The maximum torque will now occur at slip 0.2. If rotor resistance is doubled, the ratio is also doubled. The maximum torque point corresponding slip will change from 0.1 to 0.2. Now this line, the inclination will also change. Negative proportional, it will reach to maximum value here, and after that it will again follow the inversal proportion part, that is torque is inversely proportional to slip beyond this. So our curve, first case it was having rotor to reactance ratio 0.1, this curve. If we have doubled the resistance, then it will follow this curve. Actually what happens in it, the point where the maximum torque occurs, first it was here, now it is changed to 0.1 to 0.2. Similarly, if we further increase the resistance, the slip corresponding to maximum torque further changes to this point, and this curve will work. And if we increase to 0.6 times, 0.6 is the value of R2 over X2S, means resistance is increased 6 times, and this much is the curve. So from here what we can see, what is the result of all this, that maximum torque remains same. Maximum torque does not change, it will remain same. Either we are going on increasing the resistance, the torque will not change. The change in what will change, this R2 over X2S here written for these values. If we increase the resistance, this point shifts from 0.1 to 0.2, 0.3, 0.4 and any value between 0 and 1. Only this point, that is the slip corresponding to maximum torque, will change, and the curve will also change accordingly. And to have maximum torque at the time of start, R2 over X2S should be made equal to 1. If it is 1, then this directly proportional line will achieve maximum value here. Now, again we recall these points. Maximum torque remains the same because maximum torque is independent of the resistance R2. Slip at which maximum torque occurs varies with the change in R2. If we increase the resistance, it will shift this way. If we decrease, it will shift this way. Then starting torque also increases with the increase in resistance. Now first value starting torque is this much. In second case, starting torque increases from here to here. Further, starting torque again increases. It becomes equal to maximum torque if this point is at slip is equal to 1. So maximum torque is obtained at the time of starting when R2 is equal to X2S. So in nutshell we can say three things happen, that maximum torque does not change, the slip corresponding to maximum torque changes with the change in resistance, it is shifted towards right, and starting torque increases with the increase in resistance. So if we require more starting torque at the time of starting, we can insert some resistance and we can improve the torque at the time of starting. But this is possible in slip ring induction motors only, because in squirrel cage induction motors the conductors are short circuited and we cannot add resistance from external sources. So this is how the rotor resistance torque slip curve effects. Here in this diagram I have taken 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 6, 0.7, 8, 9 and 1, 10 positions of the resistance. Resistance varies from 0.1 to 1 here, and if we have the reactance value 1, then the ratio is also same, 0.1 by 1, 0.2 by 1, 0.3 by 1 and so on. The ratio is also same. The ratio of rotor resistance to rotor reactance varies from here 0.1 to 1. in 10 steps. Accordingly, the curve changes its path for point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4 in the same way as discussed earlier up to here. Now, what we do in the slip ring induction motors, we insert the resistance equal to rotor reactance at the time of start, and we get starting torque equal to this value, maximum value. Then as the motor picks up speed, this curve is not very good. If we increase the speed of the motor, as the motor picks up speed and slip is decreased, this torque will fall. What we do, as the motor picks up some speed, we change the resistance to a low value, decrease some resistance, gradually we go on decreasing, and the torque follows next torque curve, and then next curve further decreasing. When at this resistance the torque is working at this curve, and then reaching here we change the resistance so that it should follow next curve, next curve, next, and so on. Under running condition, all the resistance of external circuit is cut off and the motor works on the normal first curve. In this diagram you can clearly see, for various values of, as the motor is having slip is equal to 1 at the time of starting, resistance added to the rotor circuit is such that rotor resistance becomes equal to rotor reactance. Some additional resistance is added in it, and we get maximum torque. As the motor picks up speed, the slip decreases like this, and we go on decreasing the resistance added in the rotor resistance, and finally we follow this curve, which is the operating region of the curve. So torque from starting to running we can have according to our requirement. If we have inserted the resistance at the time of starting, then gradually cut it off as the motor picks up speed. So this motor can be started with full load because the starting torque is equal to maximum torque. But again I repeat that this is possible in case of slip ring induction motors only. Now next is the simple topic, that is the comparison of squirrel cage rotor and slip ring induction motor. Squirrel cage and slip ring. The squirrel cage induction motor employs the squirrel cage rotor. Naturally the name. Squirrel cage rotors are having conductors put in these slots and then short circuited at the ends. The core is mounted on the shaft, supported by bearings in the end rings. And in case of slip ring induction motor, the windings, insulated wire windings which are made of enameled copper. Their coils are wound just like stator winding, and then their three ends are connected to make a star point, and other three ends are connected to these three slip rings. This type of motor is employed in slip ring induction motor, or it is called phase wound induction motor, because there are made three phase windings in the rotor. Another differences we can watch from this table. Construction wise, squirrel cage induction motor is simple and robust, and slip ring induction motor needs care. Why? Because we are connecting to the supply system through slip rings and brushes. There is wear and tear and other things. Size of the motor also increases. So this motor is simple and robust. This needs care. It's not that simple. Then the cost of motor. This motor is cheaper. Squirrel cage is cheaper, and slip ring is expensive than squirrel cage. Maintenance required is less in case of synchronous motor, and it is more in case of slip ring induction motor due to its parts which are given supply from stationary to rotating member. Slot space utilization is better in squirrel cage induction motor, but space is not fully utilized in these motor, because in case of squirrel cage rotor winding is bars which are inserted in the slots and space is fully utilized. In this case, coils are inserted in the slots, therefore space cannot be utilized to that extent. Copper losses are small in rotor because rotor conductors have more size, and in this case copper losses are more. Efficiency of squirrel cage motor is higher and slip ring motor is lower comparatively. Cooling is efficient in case of squirrel cage induction motor because cooling fan can have more space in this case, and it is not that efficient as that of squirrel cage in case of squirrel cage motor. Starting torque is very poor in case of squirrel cage induction motor, but starting torque in case of slip ring motor can be very high. This motor cannot be started at load. This motor we can start at load. The starters are generally applied on the stator side of squirrel cage induction motor. They are named direct online starter, star delta starter, and auto transformer starter. The starter used to start the three-phase slip ring induction motor is on rotor side, and that is called rotor resistance starter. This starter serves two purposes. One is it controls the starting current, and other is that it improves the starting torque. If we compare all these points, the 2 point goes in the favor of slip ring, that is high starting torque, and the rotor resistance starter, which serves two purposes, controlling the starting current as well as improving the torque. So watching these all comparison, we can say that generally squirrel cage induction motors are used more than 90%, we can say, and in very rare cases where starting torque required is very high, we have to start motor on full load, we use slip ring induction motor. Otherwise squirrel cage induction motor is preferred and generally used. Thank you.